I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure, so I'm going to show you how I made two different versions of Thror's map from The Hobbit. The process is simple enough and requires no drawing skills, just the ability to trace, so it's a great project for anyone who wants to bring a little piece of Middle-earth into their home. It even has secret moon runes, which make my little nerd heart so happy. About a year ago, I made my first map replica. I get more questions and comments about my map than anything else I've ever made, partly because I like to take it to the mountains and film Instagram reels with it. Since it was such an enjoyable project, I decided to make another version of the map and bring you along to see the process. Thror's map is given to Thorin by Gandalf at the beginning of The Hobbit, along with the key to Erebor. The map, drawn by Thorin's grandfather Thror, indicates a secret door into the Lonely Mountain. Tolkien drew the original version of this map, and it is included as an illustration in the Book of the Hobbit. The map contains secret moon runes which can only be read under a moon of the same shape and season as when they were written. They read, "Stand by the grey stone when the thrush knocks, and the setting sun with the last light of Durin's day will shine upon the keyhole." When I made my first map, I just found a high-quality image online and printed it out. What I didn't realize at the time was that the version I'd printed was not the original version from the books. It's the one drawn by Daniel Reeve for the movies, and it's sold by Weta. He created maps and illustrations for Lord of the Rings and the Hobbit movies, as well as for Rings of Power. It was pointed out to me by the always helpful N2 Darkness that there are actually a number of versions of the map. The original Tolkien version has a small dragon and says Thror's map in the bottom left corner. The door is shown in red, as described in the text of the Hobbit book. The version seen in the Hobbit movies seems to be consistent throughout. You see it in the beginning when Gandalf gives it to Thorin, and again in Rivendell when the moon runes are revealed. In the beginning of Fellowship of the Ring, the map can be seen in a wooden frame on Bilbo's table in Bag End, and Gandalf picks it up to examine it. On close inspection, you can see that the map shot on the table is not the same map that Gandalf picks up. It has been weathered exactly the same with the same tears and is in the same wooden frame, but the drawing itself is very different. I found an image online and printed it out. I used a thick artist's paper from a sketchbook. I bought this at the craft store Michael's and trimmed it down to the size of the printed map. I weathered my paper before drawing because I didn't want the ink to run or accidentally destroy all my work. I used tea, coffee, and a bit of sandpaper for the weathering. The map folds like this. First, I folded the map and heavily creased the edges. I bent it back and forth a few times and banged the corners against the table. I used a bit of sandpaper to lightly sand the edges and corners. Remember, the map has been hanging out in various pockets for years, so beat it up really good. I dipped the map into my tea and coffee to color it. I paid special attention to the corners and edges, wetting it both folded and unfolded. It's very easy to tear when it's wet, so be careful. I also flicked coffee and tea at it to create spots. I laid the paper flat and let it dry completely, then I picked my favorite piece. Next up, I transferred the design. I used this multi-purpose transfer paper that I got at the craft store. I think regular carbon paper would also work just fine, but test on a scrap first. Lay the transfer paper on top of the map, transfer side down, with the printed map on top. You need to make sure that it's not going to shift around while you're tracing, so use weight or tape the edges down. Then trace over the entire map. Now you can color it with pen. I used fine Uniball Vision pens in black and red, but any good pen will work. I found it handy to have the printed map there for reference, as some of the transferred lines rubbed off a little bit. When you're done tracing, there may be a bit of transfer paper still visible, but this will rub off over time, or you can use an eraser to remove it. Now it's time for the moon runes. I used a UV blacklight pen that I got on Amazon, link in the description. It comes with a blacklight in the pen lid. This pen is invisible in regular light, but shows up under blacklight. Moon of the correct shape and season. Given that they are invisible, tracing the moon runes is a little tricky. Have your blacklight handy so you can check your work as you go. I also made a frame for my map to match the one seen in Lord of the Rings. I'm no woodworker, so I won't give too much instruction on this. I basically just glued some trim together and stained it brown. I added some black craft board for the backing. I actually secured my map to the frame with Velcro because I wanted to be able to remove it for hikes. Yeah, I'm a nerd. If I didn't plan on removing it, I would have just glued it on with Mod Podge. I don't know about you, but I'm going on an adventure. I've also made Bilbo's backpack and other projects for living your Middle-earth fantasy, so follow for more. It's a dangerous business going out your door. You step onto the road, and if you don't keep your feet, there's no knowing where you might be swept off to.